You guys know that moment when your favorite show is going on a great season streak? Like, I'm talking about just banger season after banger season. And then that same show debuts its latest season, and it ends up being just completely and utterly disappointing compared to its predecessor seasons. That is currently where we are with The Mandalorian Season 3. I knew this day would come, but I did not think it was going to happen this soon. What a shame. Grogu is still adorable, though. So The Mandalorian has returned for its third season. The writers and creators from the first two seasons have returned here, along with the returning cast consisting of Pedro Pascal, Katie Sackhoff, Carl Weathers, and Emily Swallow. The third season focuses on Din Djarin traveling to Mandalore to redeem his past transgressions with his adopted son Grogu, and being aided on their journey by the fellow Mandalorian, Bo-Katan. Now this season, it's pretty disappointing. However, that does not mean it was completely bad. There are moments in this season that I actually really did appreciate. To start off, Bo-Katan Kryze. I thought she was one of the best additions to this series. I enjoyed her presence in season 2, but here she shines way more. And Katie Sackhoff just fruitfully brings this character to life in the best way possible. She's a badass warrior, she's charismatic, and honestly, Bo-Katan Kryze truly wields the heart and soul of a leader, and I think in here in The Mandalorian, they did a really good job at showing that. Just to throw this out there, I am looking at Bo-Katan Kryze from the standpoint in the Mandalorian show only, because I have never seen Rebels and I have never finished the Clone Wars. However, I know that she is present in both of those shows, but I've never seen Rebels and I never finished the Clone Wars. But I'm willing to bet that she is way more fleshed out in both of those shows compared to the Mandalorian, and that's fine. I'm just throwing this out there. I'm looking at this from the Mandalorian and Mandalorian perspective only. I really did like the focus of Mandalore and the division amongst the Mandalorians. When this season focuses on reclaiming Mandalore and the division amongst the Mandalorians and how it got separated into pretty much two factions, I thought that is when the season really shined. In fact, I kind of was hoping that this season would focus on just that and just that alone for its entirety, but it didn't. I mean, you could argue for the most part it did, but I wish this season had focused on just that and just that alone. Also, the visuals in here are pretty stellar. Now, that's something common that you expect to see in a Star Wars project, but here it's like phenomenal. But I think to complement that is the cinematography and the production and set designs, because the production in here is incredible. And along with the great cinematography, like for example, you have locked on POV shots of all the Mandalorians traveling through the terrain, and it just looked beautiful. And I have to acknowledge that, because wow. Also, Paz Vizsla is a complete badass. I didn't really care too much about him in the predecessor seasons, but here I loved him so much, and he's amazing. He's amazing. Also, episodes 7 and 8 of The Mandalorian Season 3, absolute perfection. I absolutely loved it. I have my nitpicks with it, but those two episodes back to back, I would say it almost made up for this lackluster season. Alright, lackluster is kind of harsh. More like this disappointing season. And despite all those great things, we have to talk about the bad. I felt like this show had an identity crisis. This show tried to balance between Din Djarin going to Mandalore to be forgiven of his transgressions, focusing on the reclaiming of Mandalore and the division amongst the Mandalorians and having them merge back together again, and also building up the rise of the new empire. And this show tries to balance all three things, but honestly, I felt that if this show was longer, let's say maybe it was 10 episodes or 12 episodes, maybe it could have worked, but with it only being shrunk into 8 episodes, it kind of felt rushed, and it didn't feel fulfilling in a way, you know? I don't want to say the show felt directionless. I think more of like there were just too many directions, and the show didn't know which way it wanted to go. So they said, hey, let's just do all 3 in this one season, even though we only have 8 episodes. And they tried to juggle all that here, but it just didn't work. At least not for me. Imagine you are the main character of your own show, right? And you get sidelined in your own show. That is literally what happened to Din Djarin. They gave this guy the sideline treatment. They turned Din Djarin into a bench warmer in his own show. Now, I get that they were trying to, I guess, transition it from Din Djarin to Bo-Katan, but they just did not do it tastefully. It just felt so rushed. Now listen, Even if you were going to transition it from Din Djarin to Bo-Katan, you could have did it way more tastefully. Or, if anything, change the title to The Mandalorians. At that point, why just The Mandalorian? Because this is still Din's story. If you want a show to revolve around Bo-Katan, give her own show. There were a couple filler episodes in this season that I didn't like. Episode 3, I kind of understand because, again, it was supposed to be the rise of the Empire again. But episode 6, I was not a fan of. I was not a fan of. The cameos are cool, but I was not a fan of that episode. But I just don't like filler episodes in general. I would like to think most people don't like filler episodes, and there are a couple here in this season, and I just thought those were the weakest. Also, this is going to be a hot take, but Grogu should not have been in Season 3 of The Mandalorian. And let me tell you why he should not have been in The Mandalorian Season 3. If you remember the ending of The Mandalorian Season 2, Grogu literally went away with Luke Skywalker to be trained as a Jedi. But the problem is, the Book of Boba Fett completely derailed that whole storyline, right? Spoiler warning, if you have not seen the Book of Boba Fett. You know what, I'm just going to say it. In the Book of Boba Fett, Luke Skywalker gives Grogu a choice and asks him, hey, do you want to stay here and train as a Jedi or become a Mandalorian and go back with Din Djarin? So Grogu chooses to go back with Din Djarin, and I was not a fan of that choice because it completely derails the purpose of seasons 1 and 2 of The Mandalorian. If anything, I think Disney was worried that The Mandalorian wouldn't have been as successful without Grogu. And while I could understand that, at the same time, I think The Mandalorian would have been fine without Grogu. Because if we're being honest, Grogu should have had his own show. Or at least a limited series focusing on him training to become a Jedi. And if you think about it, season 1 and 2, it was kind of all for nothing almost. You know what? Let me wrap up this review before I start rambling for too long. But in the end, The Mandalorian Season 3, it's okay. Not as great as Season 1 nor 2, but I think there are moments in the season that Star Wars fans can love, admire, and appreciate. So, plugging The Mandalorian Season 3 into the rank system, I'm going to place this one into the pass zone. But yeah, that's pretty much my review for The Mandalorian Season 3. Let me know down in the comment section below what you guys thought of The Mandalorian Season 3. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you think this season was pretty disappointing? Did you wish that Grogu had gotten his own spin-off series or an animated short? Let me know down in the comment section below, and I will see you all in the next one.
After working up the nerve, almost equal in size, I walked around with the iron for any wrinkle in time. I paid a piece of my mind for every nickel and dime, but never less than a 5 and never slept on the job. A killer crept on your squad, yet never left the garage, where your guide was close enough to see the flesh of his eyes. Get to the button and press, it's what the message advised. What's the threat behind the vest is where the testament lies.